Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for welcoming us here together with all the councillors who are here. I saw the but more importantly, the leadership of the taxi industry. I've been in this region now since Friday. Started in Plessis Bay, Knysna, George, and I'm here today. Now, the purpose of this visit is to assess COVID-19 regulations compliance. You all know that South Africa, just like the rest of the world, we are now living under very difficult and different conditions, where all of us have to wear masks, have to sanitize or wash our hands regularly, apply social distancing where it's possible. I always emphasize the point where it's possible, because when you talk about social distancing and then taxis are loading 100%, it sounds like a contradiction. But there are reasons for that, of course, why we had to take that decision. But colleagues, it became very important for me to embark on this garden route tour so that we can deal with some of the concerns that we are picking up. Since the first case of COVID-19 was discovered in South Africa in March, in fact, it was on the 5th of March, and in the Western Cape was the 11th of March, we had to lock ourselves behind doors and make sure that we build our health infrastructure to prepare for the peak. And unfortunately, we became the very first province that was hit by the peak. But I'm very happy to stand here today and say that our province has successfully flattened the curve. We are seeing fewer cases now of people who are testing positive, and we are seeing fewer cases now of people who are losing their lives. And of course, it's very unfortunate that we had to lose people during this pandemic. But it's a journey that none of us will be able to escape. All of us standing here, whether COVID or not, someday we'll have to leave this planet Earth. So when we were assessing the situation as a cabinet, we realized that even though we are flattening the curve, there are areas, pockets of areas that are concerning. Any garden route is one of those areas. There are areas in this region that are still a concern. While we see the rest of the province decreasing, we see some of areas in the garden route increasing in terms of the number of cases. And we then took a decision to pay attention here and make sure that as cabinet members we come down here so that we can ensure that people are complying with the regulations. And I must say, colleagues, from Plessis Bay, Knysna, George, I've been very happy and impressed with the level of compliance. People are taking this very, very seriously. People are doing what needs to be done. As I said, we need now to wear our masks regularly, every day, every time. We also need to sanitize or wash our hands and apply social distancing where it's possible. And that is now our way of life. Until the vaccine or cure is found, we don't know when that will be. But until then, this is how we are going to live. We're going to wear our mask on a regular basis. Now, as early as April, when we were hit by this pandemic, because as I arrived here, some of the leaders in the taxi industry were complaining about the PPE. Now, as soon as April, immediately after the president announced the lockdown, we partnered with the umbrella body of the Taxi Association in the Western Cape, which is Santaco. we are supplying Santaco on regular basis with PPEs, your masks, your gloves, your sanitizers, as the department, because we want to make sure that we meet the industry halfway. And it became important for us because, as we all know, this is the only industry in the transport industry that is not subsidized. And of course, there is another discussion altogether. That is why we took this decision to subsidize them with the PPEs, because we understand that at that time, in particular, they were required to load 50% and then they moved to 70%. And I know that there was an outcry when we took a decision that the taxi industry must move to 100%. And I know that there are people out there who are still criticizing us for taking this decision. Now, I do want to make it very clear here, because some of these decisions are communicated by the National Minister. Now, as the MEC of Transport in the Western Cape, I support the National Minister fully when he took this decision. I supported him fully. Because it came to a point where the industry could no longer afford to take the strain that they were taking. Some people here are under pressure, some even lost their cars because of the fact that they were unable to sustain the business. Now, we had two choices as government. We either had to support the industry to meet them halfway if they were required to load 70%, or allow them to load 100% if we do not have money to support them. And that is why we took a decision to allow them to load 100%, because as you all know, the money that was given to the industry was not enough. And that is why we were under pressure as government. But here's the reality, is that we will need to learn to live with this virus. Because one, we don't know when the cure or vaccine is going to be found. So we can't lock ourselves away forever. So that is why we supported that decision as well. Now, as the province of the Western Cape, we had a meeting before I came down here. We had a meeting where we took a decision to write to the president and say to the president, please end the lockdown. Because the lockdown has served its purpose. Now, it must be very clear, colleagues. There were only two reasons why it was important or necessary for us to go on lockdown. There were only two, no other reasons. The first reason was to make sure that we prepare our health infrastructure so that when the peak comes, we are not overwhelmed. That's the first reason. The second reason was that we slow the peak so that it doesn't come while we are still busy preparing our health infrastructure. We wanted to slow the spread, and we successfully did that. Now, where we are now in the Western Cape is that we have the recovery rate of around 87%. In South Africa, the recovery rate is 74%. The fatality rate is below 2% of the positive cases, not of the population. Now, as I said, it is very unfortunate that some people lost their lives. But even before COVID, colleagues, and I'm not being insensitive, people were losing lives. And the reality is that this is a journey that none of us, will be able to escape, as I said. But we can't shut down the entire economy forever because we lost less than 2% of people, of the positive cases. I mean, we can't. Because the next pandemic now that we are grappling with is poverty and hunger. Many people have lost their jobs and with no prospect of ever getting those jobs back. Our economy is on its knees, and therefore it becomes very important to strike the balance between saving lives and livelihoods. And that is why we are calling on the president to now end the lockdown, because the lockdown has served its purpose. We now need to learn to live with the virus, but at the same time we need to kickstart our economy so that people can go back to work. People must be able to travel between provinces without any restrictions. We must, just remove these permits. If you wanna, because we know that there's a very strong link between Eastern Cape and Western Cape. In fact, even when the province of the Eastern Cape was accusing us of deliberately infecting people of the Eastern Cape, I mean, I just found it, so stupid. I'm sorry to say, because if you look at these provinces, there's no one from Eastern Cape and Western Cape. I mean, people who are here are from Eastern Cape, and there are people from Eastern Cape who are from here. So because of the history, we are joined at the hip because of the history. We are one Cape, by the way. This is a former Cape colony. Eastern Cape, Western Cape, and Northern Cape is a former Cape colony. So there are very strong ties between these provinces. So we are one. That is why, I just found it, so stupid for someone to think that I would infect my sisters and my grandmothers and my cousins who live in Eastern Cape. I would transport the virus deliberately to Eastern Cape. So that is why we are saying that just move the permits, move the restrictions, so that people can travel from and to Eastern Cape freely. Because as I said, we don't know when the cure is going to be found. We must learn to live with this virus. But people now need to put food on the table. People need to eat. So that is why we are here, colleagues, to make sure that those areas like Garden Route that are concerning, we pay extra attention there. The Minister of Health is here as well from the province. She will be here, I think, until Friday. And I'm going back because I've been here since Friday. Because we want to make sure that we enforce compliance, we work with the industry players and make sure that we take this very, very seriously. And as I said, the leadership that is arriving now, I was with them since Friday. And I want to commend the taxi industry in particular in this region, because as I said, everywhere I've been to, they take this thing very, very seriously and they are complying with the regulations. So the issues around the concerns, around the PPE, is another discussion that we must have, because as I said, we work with Santaco, which is your umbrella body. We meet on regular basis. We supply them with PPEs. And there are areas where they said the same thing, that these PPEs are not getting to you. But we will deal with that. This is not for today. Thank you very much. In a nutshell, that is why we are here as a Zuhulment. One is to communicate the status in terms of COVID-19, so that you understand where we are as a country and where we are as the province, and what is our view as the province going forward, and how do we then work together to make sure, particularly as with different spheres of government and with the industry itself, how do we work together to make sure that we comply, with health guidelines in particular going forward. But the message is very clear that we've got to go back to work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister.
The mayor wants to say something and then he will come in.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
I want to speak to the leadership that when they see that income is flattening down, speak to the municipal manager, because we want you to apply to be indigent then, so that you can also get your services for free. So it is not necessary for you to rush up and down trying to make money because you think that you need to pay your services. We have already taken a decision that all of you who are then feel the flattening down of money, that you can come to the municipality. That is how we can help what the minister has said now.
Thank you very much.